hair down to my back, or I cut a bob and do it into single plaque.
Hello, welcome to Two Mad Beans podcast. A new week, a new episode. And today I want to talk about vultures. Yeah, we want to talk about vultures. And I have Quahachi, a digital artist, a poet. I need to do everything, Charlie. One of my bosses. So I has been advocating about vultures for some time now. I saw his advocacy on social media and I loved it. I was thinking, who wants to talk about vultures? And I don't remember the last time I saw vultures in Ghana. I don't remember the last time I saw that. And I thought, okay, let's come to I and learn something about vultures. Why are vultures so important to our ecosystem? So today I'm in I's house to record this particular podcast. I also...
Whoa, Charlie.
Long time.
Yeah,
long time.
Yeah.
So, where are our vultures in Ghana?
They're probably missing now. You know, we don't have that kind of old time. You see vultures almost everywhere anymore because they are all basically dead. Because vultures themselves, they are highly endangered animals now. In 2011, they were threatened. 2013, they were highly threatened. 14, they were endangered. And now they are highly endangered. Right, so that's what's happening to the vultures. So it's rather unfortunate. You're not going to see them anymore, but it's going to be fortunate for some people to think about it. But by the end of this podcast, you know why they shouldn't be gone.
So before we start the questions and answers, why vultures? We have so many other animals. Why choose vulture, the bird vulture?
Well, one thing about the vultures is, you see, they are striking animals that from the very first beginning when you see them, they are even weird when you see them. They have no hairs on the head and stuff like that.
True.
They are vaguely very large, and they sometimes live in solitary forms. And you know, vultures actually mate for life. So man and woman, just like that. They don't go on mating differently like that. And you know, the thing about vultures now is, I was going through a whole lot of things. I like wildlife conservation. I'm a conservationist myself, so I decided to work on a couple of projects, animals in general. Okay. But then I delved into birds, and then I decided, talking about birds, let's come down to Ghana. But you know, way back in school, I used to visit the Mono National Park, and then we realized my lecturers and the other rangers there were thinking, okay, where are these vultures? We're thinking they probably might be at the very big dumpster, so let's go there. We went there, there were just few of them. Wow. So few vultures on a national park range like that. What's really happening? So I had to think about it. When was the last time I saw one? Or anyone saw one? That was a long time ago. So what's really happening to them? Let's just go online and see what's happening. And we realize it's a global crisis. The vultures are actually dwindling in their populations, right? Global populations, which is really strange. So let's tackle the issue. Let's see what's happening. So it was just a bit of research on them, research kind of thing that made me like the whole thing. I got really interested when I started the whole research.
Okay, cool. So the Molly National Park was the last time you saw a vulture?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So in Ghana, with the statistics right now, are they nearing extinction or they are out of existence?
In Ghana, they are highly endangered.
Okay.
Which means that on a normal day, right, the way you'd have seen vultures, if you're supposed to see, let's say, 3 vultures a day, you probably see 0 vultures now. Okay. But yeah, it also means that there are vultures at certain places, right? They are not all gone. There are certain places. Deep into the podcast, we talk about why they are gone.
Sure. So are there any practical benefits for mankind deriving from the vultures?
Yeah, I'll say yes. Right, I'll say yes because they are also placed in nature, so no argument about that. Every other living organism exists for its own purpose.
Sure.
And if we enter the realms of food webs and food chains and stuff like that, these vultures have their place to play.
Okay.
Right,
Sure.
and that's why we also call them scavengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are basically the ones ending the food chain. When everything is dead, they have to make sure they finish their work up for decomposers to continue. So I mean, without them, we don't have a complete food web.
Yeah, true. So are vultures valuable from the scientific point of view?
Yeah, they are very valuable. I mean, I think it's almost the same question because these are creatures that scientific. I mean, so in terms of science, we still go in a subcategory of science, which is ecology. In terms of science, they play a very big role as what they do so far as feeding is concerned, or food feeding regimes are concerned.
Okay.
These are the main organisms that help break down larger wildlife, right, into smaller chunks for the other decomposition and other things like that to happen.
Sure. So what role does vultures play in maintaining nature's ecological balance? Okay,
so for this one, well, we just call them, from now, let's just call them the janitors of nature or wildlife, right? Ecologically, vultures play a heavy role of identifying dead or dying creatures and finishing them up in terms of either they barely kill, but then sometimes they kill weak things, right? And they will eat it or consume it to the point that will be okay for it to naturally decompose. Now, if I say for them to help in decomposition, these animals can eat up to 20% of their whole body mass. That's one. The acidic content of their stomach is really caustic to the point that it really melts food very fast, which is okay for it. Vulture in itself doesn't really get affected by poisons from food, so no botulism, no food poisoning. It never has food poisoning, right? But this same animal, when it doesn't like the kind of food it eats because there's kind of some poisonous content inside, it can vomit the whole digestive system.
Oh, wow.
Digestive tract, yeah.
Okay. That's really cool.
Yeah. That's one cool thing about the vulture.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there any economical dimension of the vulture to our communities?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because if you look at the whole, let's view this from the whole economy, right? Some things that bring down economies might be diseases. Yeah. Right now, if there's this crazy epidemic, there's going to be funds released to cure that in terms of vaccines and stuff like that, right? Now, if you have all these things happening, we're probably going to die because in terms of the economy, we are going to spend more money. Now, why am I saying this? Because vultures are scavengers. Scavengers break down food for other organisms to continue the breakdown process. We have other animals called facultative scavengers, of which the raven and the crows are part. Now, the difference between these two animals is crows, don't just view crows as scavengers. They are not like the vultures. They can't decompose things like the vultures. They can't also, their stomach acidic content is not much. They can't do much like what the vultures are doing. It means that, this is what it means. It means that if it cannot eat a whale, it's going to probably leave large chunks of the animal there. If this thing happens, other animals like dogs, rats, mice, those animals will bring these animals with vectors of diseases, viruses, and other things into our community. When it does that, we are going to have, I don't know, dysentery, anything, any kind of plague, right? Anything.
True.
In our community. When this thing happens, it gets back to the government. The government is supposed to solve this issue by releasing enough funds which will affect our economy. Imagine half of Ghana getting sick, or even with this global pandemic now. Monies are being released for that. And if the monies were supposed to be used for something else, this a crazy impending issue that will just make your economy go down in a way.
True. So the next question is about misconceptions. And I want to confess something.
Okay.
So I listen to a lot of high life songs.
Yeah.
And some of these high life songs have some connotation around vultures. They're very, very lazy.
Yeah.
So me growing up, anytime I hear anything vulture, I know that these people are lazy, something lazy. So aside my misconception about vultures, do you know other ones too? People play along with it.
I mean, the first one will be the vultures are carriers of witchcraft.
Yeah, I've not heard that one.
From our movies and stuff like that, like vultures. Yeah, so you know those times, even in movies, somebody can turn to a vulture.
Yeah.
You know what's the meaning of that? Yeah, somebody can turn to a vulture, and with what we are saying, the high life music and all that. Kokosechi, like you know those kind of things. Yeah, like Kokosechi is always doing those kind of things.
Yeah, laziness and
lazy things or postponing things.
Yeah, true.
Right? Or there's this one that talks about the fact that the vulture is trying to act like a foolish person. So that people would disregard it.
Yeah.
And in that case, it will live longer.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
Which maybe is true, but I don't think people should say that about the vulture.
True.
Yeah.
So I followed you. I didn't know vultures had this importance to ecology.
Yeah.
I thought the whole laziness thing. So I was always thinking that these animals, they just eat and sleep. Oh, that's true. Are there laws to protect birds like vultures from poachers? In Ghana.
I mean, in Ghana, globally there is, but even in Ghana there is, because we have the Migratory Bird Act, which actually protect vultures themselves. I think the 19 of I've forgotten the act year, right? But then this particular act protects the vultures, which means that. So listen here carefully. It means that number one, you can't touch the vultures, you can't kill them, you can't steal their eggs or use their eggs for anything.
Wow.
So they are heavily protected under the Migratory Bird Act. Yeah.
Wow. So
there's this legislative instrument that protects all migratory birds, but this particular act is for the vultures
alone.
So for the vultures alone. So you can't touch their eggs, can't do anything. Yeah.
Wow. So currently we have a lot of our zoos being closed down.
Yeah.
Can that factor in that can that be a factor to the decline in vultures giving birth and surviving?
No, and before we go on, I'd like to also, I didn't state my stance earlier, so I should state my stance now.
Sure.
As a conservationist, there are two types of conservationists.
Okay.
The other types, wildlife conservationist, I stand for wildlife in wildlife. I don't stand for wildlife in captivity. So first of all, I don't stand for every kind of zoo.
Animal.
I don't like zoo.
Okay.
I'm one of those people who doesn't accept the fact that you should keep animal in a solitary place, right? Because it's in a captive place.
Yeah,
you have captured it, right? Wildlife in captivity doesn't thrive well like other wildlife that are supposed to be in the wildlife, right? So I don't support zoo and all those things, right? Then again, it doesn't really do anything to the decline of vultures. It doesn't really, the zoo idea doesn't really do anything to vultures. Yeah, because vultures are not even in the zoo.
True. So before we go, your closing remarks. Vultures. So how can you're advocating for vultures now?
Yeah.
Are you also doing something beyond teaching us on social media and?
Yeah. But I mean, for now, I just put like little social media cards, like placards, social media placards, talking about vultures, what they do, why we need them, and all that. Now, if we think about the vultures well to a different degree, we should understand that the reason why, we have not talked about this, but the reasons why vultures are on a massive decline, right, globally and also in terms of Africa, I won't just narrow it down to Ghana, is first of all the gentrification, right? We keep building or we keep changing the older community, making them swank new and stuff like that, and some of these affect the populations of vulture because we are displacing them from their homes, right?
Yeah, true.
Vegetative cover is being removed constantly, and it's killing them because loss of habitat, loss of their habitat is a big issue. When we finish with that, we go to the fact that one of the greatest, which is the highest cause of death of vultures now is poisoning, right? Poisoning. If I say poisoning, well, we have other ones like high tension poles, shocking them, they die. But we have poisoning, human-made poisoning. I don't mean they just eat something and they die.
Sure.
Now, poachers kill them. That's the second. That might be. It might be battling with high tension poles. Poachers actually shoot them.
Wow.
But aside that, the question to ask is, why are you shooting it? Because you're not going to eat it in the first place.
Sure.
Right? Some people shoot it because of medicine, witch doctors and stuff like that. That's one. But that's not even my concern now. People kill the vultures by poisoning bigger, larger animals like elephants and other things like that. When the vultures eat, then they die. Right, so they keep killing them. Why are they killing the vultures? Why should they eat and die? Because vultures are indicators of wildlife. So when any big or large animal dies in a national park, natural park, or any place like that, vultures circle around the dead thing. They come down. So the officials or the rangers will see there's something wrong. There's something somewhere. So whenever a poacher kills, let's say, maybe a buffalo, they'll poison the buffalo so that when the vultures come down, they'll not go up to indicate that there's something dead there for them to come and look at, because he's probably busy chopping off the leg or something like that. You know, so I mean that's basically it. But I think with the whole vulture thing and the way we are moving now, and I'm happy we are talking this time. In this age of the virus and all that, the virus will pass, and when the virus passes, people should be more proactive in trying to save the ecology, save nature, right? Not being greedy and stuff like that. Thinking about all those things we are supposed to do, pick the rubbish from the ground and all that. We are supposed to also go the next step to think about other things that are going to help us, because the next thing that's going to happen is we are going to have viruses again if we allow the crows and the ravens and the rats to keep feeding on the animals and bringing these vectors of other viruses into the human communities. You know, when all these things happen, we are basically going to have another
pandemic.
Yeah, and that's not nice. And that's what the vultures are doing. I think for all other birds, other wildlife and stuff like that. Now, my closing remarks will not even be closer to what we are talking about, but I still want to talk about the virus now.
Sure.
If you didn't know, this is what happened between last year and this year. Last year, several tons of pangolin scales were seized in China. Now, pangolin is African giant pangolin. That's the name. In tree, it's called apra. It has scales. They mostly roast it and pick the scales off. Scales are just like ivory of the tusk of the elephant or rhino, right? Very useful for fashion, other things like that. But the animal itself, Chinese people eat it. So the Chinese market. Now, if you didn't know this, 98% of the pathogen or the virus, right, was isolated from this animal before the virus started moving around. It wasn't the bat. Bats went up to, I'm not sure, but if it's 50 or something, this animal was 98%.
Wow.
And if you check it online now, you're still going to see it. You're going to just look for it. Pangolin, African giant pangolin.
Sure.
Pangolins are also in Ghana. That's what I'm talking about. This. I have seen pangolins being sold.
Wow.
On the street.
Wow.
Alongside civet. Civet, if you look at the endangered animals in Africa, civet and pangolins are part. The unfortunate thing is most people will not know what I'm talking about because they have not seen it before. They don't know they exist in Ghana.
In Ghana, yeah.
They sell them on the roadside in Kumasi Accra Road. They sell them. You see, so all these animals are things that we should think about. It's not just the vultures, but it's a wake-up call for every other thing that's happening now.
Wow.
These people went to eat all these animals. I'm not blaming them for eating those animals, but then seriously, the animal is 98% coronavirus, and then you eat it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's coming from any other animal.
True.
Only last year was the highest peak of pangolin export or import into China. And guess what? The end of last year, all these things happened. And this year, we are here with a virus that was actually isolated as a pathogen from this animal. So we should just all be careful, and we should think about a way to conserve itself. Now, as a wildlife conservationist, I say something mostly. All these animals we look at, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like we are there trying to say conserve and why are we defending nature? No, we are nature defending itself. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's it. We are just nature defending itself. Yeah. We are not protecting wildlife. We are not protecting nature. We are nature itself defending itself from all the ills of the world.
So if somebody wants to follow this course in saving the vultures and also teaching people about this whole movement, how can the person follow you on social media?
Okay, so I think the only thing a person can do now is to link me up on either Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, whichever. But at Particles, PARTIKLES, and we can have a conversation there. Because I don't know anybody, any institutional body in Ghana now championing this cause.
Yeah, true.
And it's funny. I don't. Well, of course I want to say it. I don't know what the hell the Forestry Commission is doing. Forestry Commission will just come out and say, of course, we've been working on this for a long time. But then Forestry Commission and everybody, where were you guys when I sent you all the letters for my exhibition for the endangered birds? You didn't really mind me, right? Wildlife Division, you are there pretending you don't see what's happening. Meanwhile, when we come to your place, there's almost nothing happening there. True. Do you even know about pangolins? I'm surprised. We are in Ghana. Do some teachings. Do something.
True.
These people should do something. Nobody's doing anything about it. But these are the institutions. What are you doing? Something should happen.
Something should happen. True. All right. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
I'll come back again for us to talk about other stuff.
Thank you very much.
You know chow things, so I'll come back again for us to talk about other stuff. And I'm really interested about this vulture thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really push this particular episode. People get education on vultures.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Bye.
I'm just doing me. You try to